Hey everybody, Jeremy Lechner again, and this is Jeremy Reviews, a show dedicated to spreading the truth and sharing a passion for entertainment in a safe and spoiler-free way. So, let's get started. I'm really excited to be back, guys, and I've got a good one for you today. It's the greatest matchup you will ever see. The son of Snyder versus Jay the Reviewer. It's going to be great. But, before we get started, guys, there is something I want to make very clear. I was one of those people who didn't really like Man of Steel. It didn't work for me. When I rated it, I gave it a 5 out of 10, which on my scale is mediocre average. So I wasn't really impressed. And then when I saw the reviews for this movie, again, not impressed. It looked chaotic. So needless to say, my expectations for this film were pretty low. So, did the film fulfill all of my worst fears, or did it exceed my expectations and prove me wrong? Let's find out together as we dive right into Batman v Superman. So, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is the latest film by DC Studios, directed by Zack Snyder and starring Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Jesse Eisenberg, and Gal Gadot, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as well as an extensive supporting cast, far too long to mention, but I will try to get to a few of them if I can. Let me see. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about is the characters, because there's a few wild cards for this one that a few people were worried about. The first one is Mr. Ben Affleck. Now, for a lot of people, when Ben Affleck was first announced, myself included, people were worried. Myself included again. We didn't know if he was going to do it. But I wanted to tell you guys right off the bat, Ben Affleck does a great job. He has the physique, he has the voice, which you can mostly understand, though there's a few parts, but I won't hold him against that. Let's see. In this movie, Batman is a frickin' badass. He's frightening, he's scary, there's a presence about him, and you can really tell that Affleck threw himself into the role. He wanted to do a good job, and he does it. So the Batman fans out there can rest easy. For myself, I've always ranked Batmans on the cinema as, we got Kevin Conroy, Michael Keaton, and then Christian Bale. And I'll say right now that I think Ben Affleck stands somewhere right on Bale's level. He's right about there. So that should give you a good idea. Let's see. The second big wild card is Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, or should I say Alexander Luthor. Yeah, that's a brilliant choice. I'm going to get more to him later. I'll just say right now that I think Jesse's okay, but there's a lot of problems that I'm going to point out later on, so rest assured. Let's see, Henry Cavill is back again as the Man of Steel. I feel like this time they gave Henry a little bit more to work with in terms of the character, his personal scenes, such as there's some stuff with him and Lois Lane that's really good. He hasn't really done anything that is spectacular. There's nothing in this movie that, say, brings him to the level of like a Christopher Reeves, but I can tell that Henry Cavill really loves Superman, that he cares for this role, that it means something to him, and he wants to do it justice, so he does pretty well. Let's see, the newest addition, Gal Gadot, and again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, as Wonder Woman. Now, she's really interesting, guys, because she's not in the film that much. If you're going to see Wonder Woman, don't expect to see much of her. But I'll say to the Wonder Woman fans out there, she's handled well. There's quality this time rather than quantity. She's a really good character. She's strong. She's intelligent. She actually outwits Batman at a few times, and that's not easy to do. Batman's a really smart guy. She's sensual and seductive, but not in an exploitive or immature way. It's all handled very professionally, very maturely. You can tell that she's a woman who's been around for a long time and knows what she's doing. So she's a ton of fun. I'm hoping, actually I expect, for there to be a standalone Wonder Woman movie with her in the lead role. We need to see that happen. Let's see. The The big thing that I need to talk about for this film is the story, because oh my god, is it all over the place, guys. I'm sure you've seen reviews talking about this, and I'm going to talk about it too. Guys, the story for this film is all over the place, jumping from plot point to plot point to plot point. You'll swear to God the writers were on crack while writing it. There's a lot to get to. I'm going to try and keep this concise, so please bear with me. I want to start by talking about the good stuff, because there is some really good stuff in this. First off, the most important thing for them to get right in this film is the relationship between Batman and Superman, establishing why these two are fighting, and they do it very well. Right from the start, pretty much right from the start, you know why these characters feel the way they do about each other. You understand specifically why Batman seems to have this animosity towards Superman. If you've seen the trailers, you know what I'm talking about. Why Batman seems to distrust Superman and feel that he's a threat. So you get to see that fairly clearly. And they also do some good stuff with Superman to establish why he has a problem with Batman. So the fight makes sense. It doesn't come out of nowhere. Let's see. There's one thing that I particularly liked was the stuff involving Superman and politics. They go out of their way in this movie to make it realistic. What would our world be like if someone like Superman showed up? There'd be debates, there'd be confusion, there'd be uncertainty. Some people might see him as a protector, as a savior, while others might see him as, say, the Antichrist even. I'm sure there's people who'd accuse someone like Superman of being that, and they touch on that in this film. It's done very well. I liked it. Though I wish there could have been more, but you take what you can get. Another great thing that they have in the beginning is they have Batman as a detective, a vigilante detective to be exact. These scenes are great because you can really see the graphic novel jump onto the screen. You can see Batman trying to capture a mysterious individual, so there's a lot of intrigue. It's really exciting. I loved it. There's also some fun scenes in the beginning with him and the new Alfred, Jeremy Irons. And I will say this, guys, Jeremy Irons is great as Alfred. He's sort of like the comic relief of this film. He does all these things where he'll say something to Batman, and then he'll say something under his breath, but it's always funny. It's so fun to watch. I can't wait to see more of these two, to see that relationship build.
You got too old to die young, not for lack of trying.
Now, like I said, the problem with the story overall is that it's chaotic, especially at the beginning. Fair warning, guys, if you go into this movie, the first, I would say, hour or so is gonna seem like someone on ADHD, just jumping from plot point to plot point, scene to scene, just jumping with seemingly no connection. There's a lot of setup that they have to do, and they get most of it out. It's just really hard to follow. You practically have to take notes. But if you can get through it, if you can make it to about, say, the first hour mark, the story does focus up more. It does become easier to follow. Yeah, like I said, you just got to get through that first hour. Let me see. Oh, there's something really cool. The action in this film is done very, very well. You really get the sense with the action in this film that they took notes, feedback from Man of Steel. For one thing, the action isn't cluttered to death with product placement. You can see what's happening and it doesn't get in the way. A funny thing that happens is you get the sense that they got feedback on that big issue. The big issue that a lot of people had with Man of Steel was that Superman seemed to just let people die left and right. They go out of their way in this film to make it clear that the heroes are not going to let anyone die, that they're keeping the fight away from the civilians. So I will say thumbs up to Zack Snyder and the filmmakers for that. This film, guys, is shot beautifully. The cinematography in this film is wonderful. You get the sense of there's a nice saturation of the colors in this film. I was personally afraid that this film was going to be all dark, dank, and dreary, and it is very dark, don't get me wrong, but there's a nice application of light there. There's a nice balance between the two. Zack Snyder seems to be getting pretty good at balancing the light and the dark, because that's very important, and I give him kudos for doing that. Let me see, guys, the climax of this movie is spectacular. It's gripping. I was on the edge of my seat. This is where the film really shines. This is where the film rises to that level that we hope. I'll be honest, guys, I was taking my breath away when you see the triumvirate of Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman coming together. Oh, I can't even describe my reaction. I'll simply say my reaction was this.
I think I just peed.
I hope you guys get the same one. Yeah, so I was really excited, guys. I love that part. Unfortunately, it just makes it even more painful that they managed to pretty much screw everything up with all of the problems. I mentioned earlier that I was going to get to the problems, and here they are, because there are a bunch we need to talk about. The first one is Batman. Now, I'm a huge fan of Batman. You know, he's my boy. And like I said, Ben Affleck is fine, guys. Ben Affleck does a great job, and for the most part, the character is handled fine, but there's one glaring problem, and that is, in this movie, Batman is a trigger-happy psychopath. Now, I know that there's graphic novels, and I know that there's a lot of stories where they try and have Batman's relationship with guns and violence as more ambiguous, and that's fine. I understand that. I understand that Batman's not always going to have this dilemma about violence, but it needs to be done in a way that's sophisticated, that's nuanced, and here, it's about as sophisticated and nuanced as this. Yeah, there's no explanation, there's no setup for it, it just happens. And that's not right, it doesn't work. The second big problem, as I mentioned earlier, is Jesse Eisenberg. I honestly, guys, I don't know what to say with him. There are times when he seems very menacing, there's times when his plan in this movie seems brilliant, but there's other times where he just seems like an idiot. A crazy idiot. I feel like the writers didn't know what to do with him, and I feel like Jesse Eisenberg wasn't sure what to make of the script. There's times when he seems like he's doing a Joker impression. There are other times when he just seems to be Jesse Eisenberg being Jesse Eisenberg, only quirkier. There are other times where he seems downright cartoony. Guys, there's actually a scene in this movie where they have Jesse Eisenberg do a reveal with a rotating chair. A freaking rotating chair.
I need an old priest and a young priest. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you.
It's just ridiculous. What else? Like I said, guys, the story is all over the place. The big problem with this movie, guys, is all of the stuff setting up the Justice League. I know it's necessary, but it's just distracting. It's shoehorned in. It's not handled well. Every time you see it, it's clear that that's the only reason it's there. They shouldn't have put it in. They should have found another way to just cut it out and just imply it. Another big problem is the dialogue. The dialogue in this movie, there's so much of that Snyder, Nolan-esque, Shakespearean quasi-language. There's so many characters in this movie that just go into soliloquies, and they're written fine, I guess. They're written eloquently, but they're not what human beings say. Human beings don't speak like this. And it's so distracting. And like I said, you know, there's just problems with pacing, there's problems with the overall tone, but at the same time, I still had fun with it. And that's why I'm so torn on this one, guys, because, like I said, the climax was really gripping. I was invested, I cared about what happened. You know, things like Ben Affleck's performance, the overall action, the way it's handled, it holds this movie up. It steps up from Man of Steel. And the climax pushes it into the good category. But there's just so many basic problems with character motivations, with pacing, with scene structure, with dialogue. These are basic problems, guys, and we have to take them to task. So, I've decided for Man of Steel... Man of Steel, pardon me for getting the comparison wrong. For Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 on the strength of its climax. on the strength of its climax. It's held up by performances, it's held up by its climax, but it's held down by all these problems. I'll put it this way, guys. This isn't the dawn of justice we deserved. But I guess it's the dawn of justice that DC needed to give us right now. So my hope is that they'll take feedback from us, and now that they've basically caught up as much as they could with one movie, my hope is that they'll take a breather and give us a little more time to digest these characters. Give us a standalone Wonder Woman movie, a standalone Aquaman movie, and just allow us to develop these characters. But don't get me wrong, guys. I think this film is good, and I do recommend it. Just be willing to forgive a lot of stuff. Be willing to get through all of the BS. So, I know this was all over the place, guys, but so was the movie. So, guys, that's my review for Batman v Superman. I want to know what your thoughts are on the film. Please let me know in the comments below. I would really appreciate it. And guys, if you have any recommendations for movies you'd like me to review, please let me know. I'm not just a superhero action movie review. I review any movies that I can find that are interesting, at least to me. And as always, guys, I want you to know that if you like what you see here and you want to see more, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below, or you can follow me on Facebook where you'll see my older written reviews. So guys, that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to doing another one for you. But until then, I wish you guys all the very best, and happy film going.